Have you ever considered that the one who betrayed you did not truly break you, but only stripped away an illusion you once clung to? The moment burns like fire, yet it is that very fire that lights a path you never dared to walk. Betrayal is not an ending, but the beginning of a strength even you had not yet recognized. People often believe revenge must be loud, but to a Stoic mind, true power lies in calm. You need not shout, you need not prove. Only hold a steady silence so unshaken that no one can move you. Suffering does not define you. It refines you into clarity and resilience. When we stop searching for explanations outside ourselves, we begin to discover the true power within. And that is the beginning of the journey we are about to take together. 1. Betrayal as a mirror of truth. Betrayal often strikes like a sudden blow, leaving us breathless, unbalanced, and doubtful of our own worth. The natural human response is to see it as a personal failure, a sign that we were not good enough, not worthy enough, or not valuable enough to be cherished. But if we pause and look with the eyes of a Stoic philosopher, we see a different picture. Betrayal is not proof of weakness, but a mirror. It reflects the truth of the relationship, of values, of people, and it forces us to face what we once refused to admit. The truth is, most of the time we live in illusions. We trust in promises, in loyalty, in the belief that those we love will always walk with us to the end. We build faith on desire, not on reality. And when betrayal comes, the fog lifts. We see the nature of others and of ourselves in the process. Painful as it is, that moment is a rare chance for awakening. No more masks, no more pretense, only the bare truth. Who truly stands with us and who never belonged to our journey. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If someone shows me the truth, I will be grateful, for no one was ever harmed by the truth." This is the spirit we must carry when facing betrayal. It does not come to destroy, but to strip away illusions. It does not come to make us bitter, but to make us more honest, clearer, more awake. Pain may pierce the heart, yet the truth revealed by betrayal is a light for the path. In suffering, we learn what is worth holding, what must be released, and the limits we cannot compromise. Stoicism teaches that we cannot control the actions of others, only our response. Betrayal, then, is not an ending, but a reminder that life will always reveal necessary truths, ready or not. When someone betrays us, they do not damage our true value. They only show us they never deserved the place we gave them. So instead of asking, "Why did they do this to me?" ask, "What truth have I just seen through this act?" The question will not erase the pain, but it will transform the pain into insight. It is crucial to distinguish between pain and harm. Pain is the natural response of body and mind to loss, while harm is what twists character and destroys the soul. Betrayal brings pain, but it does not force us into harm unless we let bitterness and hatred consume us. Seen with clear eyes, betrayal does not shrink us, but opens new space for growth. It cuts away the false, leaving behind a stronger foundation for our character and our true values. Betrayal, in the light of Stoicism, is a painful form of enlightenment. It is like a merciless mirror, showing us the places we do not wish to see but must face. It shows the limits of blind trust. It shows who truly walks with us and who only stays when life is easy. It reminds us that truth, though difficult to accept, always frees us from illusion. And when we dare to face that mirror, we begin a new journey, a life lived with clarity, no longer bound by the lies that once held us. 2. Pain as training Pain is often seen as a burden to avoid, a trial to erase, or an enemy to defeat. Yet under the light of Stoic philosophy, pain takes on an entirely different role. It is the strictest teacher, the most accurate test, and the most enduring tool by which the soul grows strong. No growth is born in comfort, and no steady spirit is forged through ease. Just as the body requires resistance and strain for its muscles to develop, the mind requires pain to learn resilience, to train in self-control, and to expand its capacity to endure. Stoicism reminds us that it is not the event itself that brings us down, but how we receive it. Pain, when viewed with reason, ceases to be a useless wound and becomes instead a form of inner exercise that sharpens endurance. When you suffer betrayal, loss, or disappointment, what truly unfolds is not collapse, but a trial by fire that reveals your inner quality. What is weak is burned away, and what is strong survives, hardened and purified. In that very crucible, a person finds their core, something that cannot be taken by circumstance, only sharpened with every test. Seneca once wrote that hardship trains the mind as labor trains the body. This means that each time we face pain, our mind is placed in a training ground. A person who has never known failure or betrayal lacks inner strength, for they have never had to rise after being struck down. By contrast, one who has tasted pain and learned to endure it walks with a quiet certainty no comfort could ever provide. Pain, when accepted as part of life, ceases to be a curse and becomes preparation. Epictetus also taught that what happens outside us is beyond our control, but our response always belongs to us. This transforms pain from an enemy into a tool. It is like a constant test asking, how will you choose to respond? Will you collapse, or will you stand firm and learn? Every time we choose reason over chaos, we are training. Every time we choose discipline over blind reaction, we progress. Every time we hold our character instead of letting emotion destroy it, we refine ourselves. Over time, these repeated exercises accumulate into an unshakable strength. The key is to understand that pain is not to be avoided, but to be faced. The Stoic does not seek suffering, but neither do they run when it comes. They see it as a chance to train the mind, to prove character, and to discipline the soul. A person who has walked through pain and preserved their integrity knows they have grown. This is not mere survival. It is transformation. They are no longer who they once were, but a forged version, harder, clearer, wiser. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The obstacle a man meets is the opportunity for action." Pain is just such an obstacle. It may slow the feet, it may strike the heart, but it also opens a door to growth that no smooth road could offer. If we dare to face it, to hold the mind steady and firm, then pain ceases to be an adversary and becomes an ally. It exposes weakness, demands training, and leaves us stronger than before. So, look back at the pains of your past, not as scars to hide, but as marks of training. Each wound, each loss was a lesson. Without them, we remain fragile and deluded about our strength. With them, we learn how far we can endure, and we discover how to stand when all around us falls. That is the spirit of Stoicism, to turn pain into training, and to let that training shape a strength more enduring than anything that can be taken from us. 3. Silence, the weapon of the awakened. Silence is often misunderstood as surrender, weakness, or helplessness. Yet in Stoic philosophy, silence is one of the highest forms of power, not the absence of sound, but the presence of self-mastery. When betrayed or wronged, the instinct is to justify, argue, or prove our worth. But the more we react, the more we entangle ourselves in their game, driven by emotion instead of reason. The Stoic understands that every reckless word is a loss of control, while every moment of silence is a declaration of sovereignty. Epictetus reminded us that no one can truly harm us unless we allow our mind to enter their provocation. This means others may hurl lies, insults, or betrayals, but we alone decide whether these disturb our inner peace. The most powerful tool to preserve that peace is silence. In withholding a response, we do not deny truth, we deny being dragged down to their level. Silence is not denial, but a statement. I will not be ruled by your chaos. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." This applies to words as well. In silence, we step out of the cycle of conflict and hate, for if we keep arguing, we become a mirror of their pettiness. Silence is not passivity, it is deliberate action, the highest act of discipline. It signals clearly that truth does not need noise to prove itself, for time and nature will unveil it. In Stoicism, silence is not escape, but strategy. It is like an invisible shield causing no harm, yet neutralizing every attack. The more others seek a reaction, the more unsettled they become by unshaken calm. That silence strips them of power and returns to us the space to focus on what matters: self-mastery. In the quiet, we do not waste energy on hate, we invest it in strengthening our character, in moving forward, in building discipline and peace that no argument could give. Seneca once declared, "No one is free who is not master of himself." Silence is such freedom. It shows we are no longer slaves to outbursts or petty desires. It is proof that we command our own minds. People may mock, may twist stories, may gossip, but our silence proclaims that we no longer play those games. We withdraw energy from useless conflict and pour it into our own journey, where silence becomes fertile ground for growth. Silence is also how we hear ourselves. When we cease rushing to answer, the outer noise fades, and we hear the inner voice. Then we know what to keep, what to release, and which path is truly worthy of us. No audience, no applause, silence itself becomes the loudest affirmation. I command myself, and I am no longer a puppet of circumstance. So remember, silence is not emptiness, but fullness of power. It is both mirror of self-mastery and weapon that renders attacks meaningless. In that stillness, we neither lose nor need to win. We simply rise above, for nothing can shake a mind that has learned to stand firm in silence. 4. The awakening of hidden strength. When betrayal strikes, the first reaction is often loss and collapse. People believe another's departure is proof of their own weakness. Yet through Stoic eyes, we see a paradox. Many leave us not because we are weak, but because we have grown strong. Inner change, raised boundaries, higher standards all drive away those unwilling to face such growth. They retreat not because we lack value, but because they cannot bear the strength now awakening in us. Stoicism teaches that real strength is not in controlling others, but in mastering oneself. When betrayal exposes the truth, it also unlocks hidden power within. Before, we may have lived in compromise, in the expectations of others, in fear of rejection. Betrayal shatters that fragile shell. It is like a wind that extinguishes a small flame, but fans the embers into a greater fire. The strength already in us awakens not through protection, but through loss. Marcus Aurelius wrote, The strength of a man lies in his ability to adapt and turn obstacles into opportunities. In betrayal, we may lament injustice, or we may see it as a threshold into a new stage of self. Every departure leaves a void, but that void is not only absence, it is space for inner power to rise. Without external support to lean on, we are forced to lean on ourselves. And in that moment, strength long dormant is called forth, like a neglected muscle finally brought to use. What unsettles people is not our weakness, but the resolve we begin to show. When we choose silence over reaction, principle over compromise, solitude over begging someone to stay, this independence disturbs them most. Betrayal, rather than breaking us, becomes the spark to reassert our true character. It reminds us that our value never lies in another's hands, but in our ability to command ourselves and live by reason. Epictetus taught, "It is not circumstances that make the man, but how he responds." Betrayal is only circumstance. Our response is where strength is forged. If we choose bitterness, we trap ourselves in hatred. But if we choose clarity, betrayal becomes the test through which we emerge stronger. It is the awakening of potential, the shift from dependence to autonomy, from illusion to truth, from weakness to resolve. This hidden strength is not loud or harsh. It is not sharp words or dramatic actions. It is a quiet force, steady, immovable. It is seen in how we are no longer easily manipulated, no longer stirred by trifles, no longer defined by the gaze of others. It is the strength of one who has learned to stand alone, who has endured betrayal and pain, yet remains composed. Thus, betrayal becomes a paradox of beauty. It does not diminish us, but elevates us. It does not extinguish the light, but ignites the flame. It does not make us small, but compels us to realize our true stature. When hidden strength awakens, there is nothing left to prove. Our presence, our calm gaze, our steady steps all declare that we have not only survived betrayal, but we have become stronger because of it. Rule 4. Know when to be absent so your presence has value. In a world that constantly urges people to appear, to speak, to be everywhere, deliberate absence becomes a rare form of strength. People often assume that the more they appear, the greater their worth. That attending every conversation, being present at every event, and accepting every invitation proves their importance. But in truth, constant presence makes us predictable, replaceable, and slowly strips away our weight. The Stoic understands this law and takes the opposite path. He turns scarcity into power so that his presence carries meaning instead of becoming routine. Absence guided by reason is not retreat out of fear, nor is it irresponsible withdrawal. It is a disciplined choice. By not being everywhere, you turn your appearance into an event rather than an expectation. When presence is rare, it naturally attracts attention, inspires appreciation, and lends greater weight to every word and action. This follows a familiar principle of scarcity. What is seldom encountered is valued more, not because its essence has changed, but because human perception has rendered it precious. In Stoic philosophy, knowing when to withdraw is also a way to guard one's energy and focus from being wasted on trivial matters. Epictetus once reminded, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." This does not only encourage humility, but also implies that you need not be part of every discussion to prove your worth. Absence from the unimportant is presence in what truly matters. The Stoic knows that time and energy are finite resources, and how we allocate them defines the quality of our lives. Furthermore, absence is a way to establish boundaries. When you are always available, others assume your time is theirs to take at will, but when you choose absence, you send a quiet message. My presence is not granted without condition, it is bound to value and choice. From this, others are forced to respect limits, to think carefully before seeking you out, and to treasure your presence when it truly happens. This is not arrogance, but the protection of inner worth, a form of preserving dignity and self-command. Deliberate absence also shapes how others remember you. If you appear too often, familiarity makes your image fade. By contrast, when you hold back, memory of you sharpens, for every appearance leaves a distinct mark. This is why Stoic philosophers and leaders rarely allowed themselves to drift aimlessly in crowds, but chose to appear when needed and withdraw when enough had been said. They understood that value does not lie in frequency, but in the depth of each presence. Scarcity also creates anticipation. When you are not always present, others begin to wonder when you will appear. They begin to wait. They begin to value it. While constant presence becomes taken for granted, absence makes each encounter more memorable. The Stoic uses this principle not to manipulate, but to remind that everything in life requires limits, and only what is limited can preserve lasting value. It is crucial to remember that absence is not abandonment. It is not shirking responsibility or rejecting relationships, but a considered choice to ensure that your presence always carries meaning and integrity. You do not need to be everywhere to prove you matter, for importance does not come from frequency, but from the quality of your presence whenever it occurs. In practice, this principle teaches us to discern what is worth attending and what is best declined. Not every meeting has value. Not every conversation deserves our time and focus. The Stoic learns to choose, and in that choice becomes magnetic, for his presence is never accidental, it always carries a message. In the end, knowing when to be absent is not a weakness, but a discipline and a wisdom. It protects energy, defines boundaries, heightens the value of presence, and reminds the world that your appearance is not to be assumed. In a society where people clamor to be seen, the one who dares to choose timely absence leaves the deepest impression. And that is why, in Stoic thought, scarcity is seen as a quiet yet enduring form of power. Rule 5. Lead through reflection. In the art of leadership and influence, people often think of imposition of seizing control by forcing others to obey commands or adopt opinions. Yet in the spirit of Stoicism, true power does not come from coercion, but from the ability to create harmony. That harmony is born through a quiet and subtle skill, the power of reflection. Reflection here is not passive imitation, but conscious presence, where you adjust your rhythm, attitude, and energy to establish a shared cadence with the one before you. When people feel reflected, they feel safe, they feel understood, and in that safety they open themselves, becoming more willing to receive influence. Reflection is an art of communication, for it does not demand that you dominate or win every exchange, but that you listen and adjust yourself to create harmony. The Stoic sees that people resist force but soften before empathy. When someone feels attuned, their defenses fall away. They lower their guard and allow your presence to enter their mind without resistance. In such harmony, you do not need to prove with many words. Your presence itself becomes the guiding strength. The strength of reflection lies not only in making others comfortable, but in granting you the quiet initiative that few notice. Once rhythms align, you can begin to guide that rhythm, leading it in the direction you choose. From initial reflection, you slowly become the one who sets the tempo, and others naturally follow. This is not manipulation, but gentle direction, where you begin with harmony and then quietly lead. Marcus Aurelius once reminded, "Live as though your soul is in harmony with the soul of the universe." This can be understood to mean that true strength is not found in imposing discord, but in shaping oneself to align with a greater order, and from that harmony, influence flows. To lead by reflection springs from the same principle, not breaking down to control, but creating a shared rhythm to guide. A crucial element of reflection is humility. To reflect, you must lay aside the ego that demands to dominate at once. You do not enter conversation with the spirit of "I must win," but with the spirit of "I must understand, so I may guide." This is the divide between shallow power and profound power. Shallow power comes from suppression, but profound power is from empathy. The Stoic chooses the latter, for it endures, for it builds connection instead of resistance. Reflection is also a way to dissolve conflict. When someone is consumed by anger, meeting anger with anger only fuels the blaze. But if at first you reflect their intensity to acknowledge their feeling, and then gradually lower the rhythm, you create a calm space into which they can step. In this way, reflection becomes a bridge, guiding another from their storm into the stillness you hold. Stoicism sees this as the highest victory, for it requires no violence, no clamor, yet restores order. Once reflection has built trust, it opens the door to persuasion. No complex arguments are needed, no endless debates, only the quiet presence of harmony, and words fall more easily into place. The Stoic knows that people rarely remember exactly what you said, but they always remember how you made them feel. Reflection makes others feel respected, and from respect, they are more willing to be led. The essence of this art is authenticity. If reflection is only a false technique, it will be quickly uncovered and backfire. But when it arises from true attention and awareness, it becomes lasting power. The Stoic trains for mindful presence to observe others with clarity and to adjust himself with sincerity. This is the foundation that makes reflection enduring. Leading through reflection proves that power need not be loud or forceful. It shows that the greatest strength often manifests in silence, in listening, and in harmony. When you reflect, you not only understand others, but also open the way to guide them naturally. And in the Stoic spirit, this is the highest form of leadership. Not forcing, not grasping, but standing steady, present and attuned, leading through peace and certainty. Rule 6. Know when to walk away. One of the most subtle expressions of inner strength is the ability to walk away at the right moment. In life, people are often held back by fear of loss, by the habit of clinging to what is familiar, even when it no longer holds value. Such attachment is often disguised under noble names like loyalty, patience, or endurance. But in truth, it is only the fear of being left behind, the fear of facing emptiness, the fear of losing one's place. The Stoic understands that walking away, when done with reason and principle, is not failure, but proof of strength and freedom. In every conversation, relationship, or circumstance, there are natural limits. When those limits are crossed, when exchange becomes meaningless, when connection turns into burden, holding on no longer shows perseverance but becomes self-destruction. Epictetus once said, "If you want to be free, learn to let go." Letting go here is not turning your back in hatred, but a wise choice born of the understanding that nothing outside has the power to bind your mind except by your consent. To walk away in the Stoic spirit is to step out of what no longer fits, in order to guard the tranquility of the soul. People often remain trapped in relationships or situations without exit because they believe presence itself is proof of worth. They fear that by leaving, they will lose status or recognition. But the Stoic does not measure his worth by the permission or approval of others. He knows that dignity lies in the ability to act in accord with reason. And when circumstances violate that principle, walking away is not the last option. It is the only option. Walking away is also a form of silence that carries weight. Instead of arguing to exhaustion, instead of explaining to convince those unwilling to understand, the Stoic chooses to leave, letting his absence speak more powerfully than words. In that emptiness, others are forced to question themselves, to face the silence created by departure. This is why, in many cases, walking away leaves a deeper mark than any confrontation. It is a declaration without speech, the strength of action without noise. To walk away is not indifference or apathy. It is not the refusal of connection with the world, but the protection of one's core values. Marcus Aurelius once warned, "Hold on to yourself, for if you do not, you will cease to belong to yourself." When a situation demands that you sacrifice peace, integrity, or dignity merely to remain present, you have already begun to lose yourself. The Stoic knows that staying in a place unworthy of his presence is no different than selling his soul to what lies beyond his control. Moreover, walking away is an act of taking initiative. When you know when to stop, you free yourself from the passivity of being forced. You need not wait until everything collapses. You act before the damage becomes irreparable. This shows the discipline of reason, not clinging out of emotion, not blinded by habit, but deciding by principle. Through this initiative, walking away no longer reflecting on these 6 principles, I realize that true strength never lies in noise or in striving to prove oneself to others. It is found in self-mastery, in the ability to govern emotions, to choose silence at the right time, to remain unpredictable, to limit one's presence, to reflect in order to create harmony, and to walk away with courage when necessary. These principles are not tools to manipulate or to defeat others, but disciplines that allow us to stand firm in a world of constant turbulence. Each day, I learn that when I lessen my need to react, when I stop seeking recognition, I feel lighter and more steadfast. It is this stillness that gives me a sense of freedom that nothing external can take away. If you find value in these reflections, remember to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the content to come. And always remember, the greatest strength is not in conquering others, but in conquering yourself in every moment of life. I will see you again in the next video. Attachment is often disguised under noble names like loyalty, patience, or endurance. But in truth, it is only the fear of being left behind, the fear of facing emptiness,